He's the GM of the Lakers. He's Mitch Kupchak. How's your bracket so far, Mitch?
Brackets so far so good. As long as North Carolina's in, I'm doing good, Dan.
How much can you watch? Well, you're watching. You could do research by watching the tournament, correct?
I get paid for watching the tournament.
I think this Marshall kid can play in the NBA. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm not allowed to comment publicly on underclassmen. It's an NBA rule. But I think everybody that goes to North Carolina can play in the NBA.
Well put. How did you feel when Duke bowed out against Lehigh?
Made my day.
Did you have Lehigh beating Duke?
Every year when I do the brackets, no matter who is playing well and who's not playing well between Duke and North Carolina, I always have North Carolina winning the championship, and I always have Duke losing in the first round.
Nice. Take me to the trade deadline. Let me start with how many calls do you think you received prior to the trade deadline?
Well, the leading up to the trade deadline, there's probably a week of big-time activity. This year was different because of the lockout. A lot of the college tournaments, the Big East, the ACC, the SEC, they were all taking place the preceding week. And a lot of the general managers were out at the tournament. So it was moved back a little bit. And it got pretty, heavy starting on Sunday and then ran through the deadline on Thursday. Whether you're active or not, there's lots and lots of phone calls. This year in particular, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning were very, very busy for us. And as you know, we made 2 deals, and, we think we've improved our team. But, it cost us a long, long time Laker in Derek Fisher, and that's an emotional thing to get over. I can't tell you how thankful we are for what he's done for us over the years. And it's tough on him. It was a tough thing to do.
How was that, though, to walk in and say, Fish, we've traded you?
Well, it doesn't work that way anymore. It worked that way 20, 30 years ago when, it took a day to get news from California to New York. Today it happens, by the time I hung up with the league in New York to get the deal done, it was already on the bottom of the wire.
Oh, wow.
And unfortunately, most of our players find out about trades, before I can get to them. And that's what happened in this case.
How close did you come to trading Powell?
Not very close. In the last week or so, about 3 months ago, really close.
Where were you going to send him?
3 months ago, there was a much public, deal that was, talked about, and it was in place with, the Chris Paul thing and New Orleans, and, it did not take place. But since that period in December, there have been lots of talks, and I think it really got to Powell, to deal with the rumors day in and day out. But the last week or so, we made a decision, based on, phone calls and opportunities, and what was presented to ourselves to do the 2 deals we did and to take this team, through the summer and hopefully really proceed and do well in the playoffs this year.
How serious did the talks get with Orlando, with Dwight Howard?
There were lots of talks, going on for months. My sense was there was much more uncertainty months ago than there was last week. And I'm talking about, Orlando, so I can't get into great detail, but, there wasn't a lot of activity. Clearly, in Orlando, there was a lot of, back and forth amongst the player and the agent and the team. And, something, I think it worked out the way it was supposed to work out.
Well, why not Michael Beasley?
We had discussions with a bunch of teams. I'm not going to say that we didn't talk about players, with Minnesota. But, I'm not going to get into which players we did talk about. I mean, players don't need to hear that, and GMs don't need to hear that their players, may or may not have been moved. So I'm going to have to decline to comment on that one, Dan.
I respect the approach you had with Pau Gasol when Kobe spoke up, and I realized why he did. He wanted to say to Pau, "I got your back." You don't want him to lose confidence, but you couldn't sit there and say, "In my job, I'm trying to improve this team," and say to Pau Gasol, "I'm not going to trade you." How tough was that to? After what Kobe said, you couldn't come out and say, I'm not going to trade him, or I haven't made that decision.
Well, the reality is that last year, we did not fare well in the playoffs. We got beat by Dallas in the second round. And in Los Angeles, what that does, it kicks into motion, a chain of events, which really focus on trying to improve the team and getting back, to a championship caliber team. And when that happens, all bets are off on all players. Kobe is the only player in the NBA that has a no-trade clause in his contract. So, you'll never see, a rumor about the Lakers trying to trade Kobe. So that you won't see. But all the other players, when you lose, in particular in Los Angeles, you're in play. And, we look to make the team better going forward. Our fans expect a lot. And, the rumor mill is a part of it.
He's Mitch Kupchak, Laker GM, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Who makes more sense for you, Andrew Bynum or Dwight Howard?
Well, I love Andrew Bynum. And
is he as good as Dwight Howard?
They're different players. To go into great detail would be hard to do, but, a basketball person would look at them and maybe one is, better down with, moves either hand in the low post. Certainly one, is a much, better athlete in terms of running the floor. But they're both, in my opinion, the two best centers in the NBA. Dwight's had a much longer and larger body of work to choose from. But we're hoping our guy in a year or two will be able to, sit down and say, hey, listen, there's a debate on which one of these guys are better right now. But Dwight's had a much larger body of work for people to judge him on.
How would you feel if Derek Fisher ends up with Oklahoma City or the Clippers, Spurs?
He should end up, if he chooses to play, and I think he will, with a team that can win. That's all Derek wants to do. That's all he's ever wanted to do. So I would be surprised if he didn't end up with a team that was a contending team.
Did I ever bring that up to you in New Orleans at Pat O'Brien's when you walked in and I was with Sean Salisbury?
Yeah, we had this discussion. That wasn't me. That was another 6'10" guy.
No, it was not. No, it was you. I got sources on that. But, right, how awkward was that? Did you have any idea what was going on that day when Sean Salisbury asked the Laker GM?
No, and I'm still not sure I do.
It was a weird joke, but he would always ask people, and we'd be standing around a bar, and he'd go, Laker GM, Mitch, and then he would actually give you a cup check. And you're responsible for a few guys taking a bow. So I just want to let you know.
Okay.
You've made your mark. You've made your impact.
Well, I've been fortunate along the road. I'm not sure how to answer that one.
Would you rather talk about Pau Gasol than a cup check?
Let's talk about baseball.
Are you a big baseball fan?
I am a big baseball fan. I grew up in New York and Long Island and in the 50s and the 60s, and, big-time Yankee fan. The Mets had just kind of, come around. The Dodgers had already left by the time I started following baseball. So I was a Yankee fan, and they went through some tough times in the mid to late 60s. But I still follow baseball. It's a great sport. I love to watch games. I love to go to games.
But you're a Yankee fan or a Dodger fan?
Well, I guess, you never forget or you never actually lose, your childhood. So, I would like to think that everybody takes with them the team they grew up with. But I follow very closely the Dodgers here in Los Angeles. I like the American League as well, so I go to the Angel games too. I'm following very closely with the Dodgers what's taking place here, and I'm hoping that they can get back to their winning ways as well.
Politically correct, as always. Thank you, Mitch.
Okay, Dan.
Appreciate it. Mitch Kupchak. That was another 6'10" guy who was there. Nope, they wasn't. It was Mitch Kupchak.